What I want to talk about today is a topic that has been very commonly bandied about in the public sector and in the private sector, but more than any other area, desktop virtualization is one that has been very common in the educational world, in public education institutions and private institutions, looking to desktop virtualization to solve some of the problems that they have with desktops. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to give you a demo of two interfaces. The first one that I'm going to give you is a demonstration of and you'll notice I'm in a MacBook here. In keeping with students bringing their own MacBooks, I am going to show you what they would do to get to virtual desktop. I'm giving this demonstration myself from a browser, but it is also true that if I was in front of you, I'd be doing this with a thin client or an iPad. It's easier to do this demonstration through a browser. We have a 32-bit client. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but with something as small as a browser, you can connect to a virtual desktop. So let me connect here, and you'll see that it is now opening a virtual desktop. I guess this one is Windows XP assigned to this user. Puts in the password. I hit OK, and it brings me into a virtual desktop. And what is interesting here is I have this presentation here called Inception. This is a bit of a joke, but I'm doing this presentation myself on a MacBook. You're connecting over WebEx, and we're both going out to this Acme demo site. And the reason why I point this out is because this enables you to expose internal resources to the organization without requiring a client VPN. So if you have a banner or a PeopleSoft or applications that you do not want to expose publicly on the external extranet, you can expose it to the virtual desktops which are running inside your environment, and the internal resources are accessed from that internal asset or virtual desktop. The other thing that I'm going to point out here is kind of the storage models. People say, well, my students, they want to store these large files that might be, gigabytes, 10 gigabytes, and what do they do about storage? Well, this is interesting. I am actually doing this demonstration, as you can see here, from a Mac machine. But you also see I have this drive that's out on the cloud. This is actually running on Amazon. It's a 500 gigabyte drive, or I can pass through my local devices as well. So lots of options for students to store data on the local machine or to store it off on their cloud or USB drive. They're really the same as a traditional model. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect from this virtual desktop, and I'm going to show you the administration of this. Actually, one thing before I do that, if I access this user's portal here, I'm not going to automatically connect to my desktop. You'll see here that this user was assigned two different desktops. One was this desktop which I just connected to, but there's a second one as well. And the end user in self-service mode can define what is my default desktop. And they have the ability, if it is their own desktop, to do kind of traditional power operations. If they're sitting in their dorm room and they have multiple monitors, again, self-service, that they can choose to use multiple monitors. Or this could be I'm enrolled in 5 classes, and this is class 1, class 2, class 3, and they can choose which lab machine or image they would like to connect to. So it's engineered to be very simple for the end user to be self-sufficient. So the other interface that we provide, what I'm going to do here, is log into the administration side of this, and this is for the IT administrator. So if I log in here with my credentials, and you'll notice that this is authenticating against the client AD system. So this would be your directory services. We don't want to disrupt your business. And I'll point out some of the capabilities that the IT administrator can do. The first thing to point out is that when you purchase from Desktone, we really are allocating to you a certain quota. So in this case, we've allocated to this institution 10 enterprise desktops, which is 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM, and 30 pro desktops, which is 1 CPU and 2 gigs of RAM. But we've assigned to you a certain amount of capacity. The second thing that we provide you on day one is images that are optimized for the virtual environment. So Linux, Windows 7, Windows XP, and of course there's two things that you can do. One thing that you can do is you can take an existing desktop and say, hey, turn that into my template. That's the one. I've installed all of my lab applications. I would like you to take Development 102 and turn that into a gold pattern that I use to build out my desktops. Or if you've done this already yourself, you can upload your own desktop image. And so on day one, you have the virtual hardware, you have this virtual image, and so you really only need to do two things. One is you need to create desktops. So this will be, I went to a university called Carleton, so I put in, this is the name of my pool, and I answer 4 questions, which is what is the hardware model? I'll say enterprise, and you'll see it tells me how many of those I have. So I'm going to pick 10 enterprise desktops running Windows 7, and then I pick, is this going to be a persistent desktop which is used for faculty, administration? It's a persistent desktop. Or is this going to be a dynamic desktop which is assigned, for example, to students for labs, that when they log off it reverts back to the original format from when they logged on. So if they introduced some kind of change, it just simply snaps back to the way it was. And of course there's lots of additional options. If I customize this, I can say join this particular domain or join this OU, or I can say I'd like to time out the VM after this amount of time, or I can say allow the students to pass through clipboard and drives, but don't let them pass through ports or printers. And so you can set some of those extended features, but really at the end of the day it's 4 questions, which is what's the hardware, what's the image, how many, and what type. And you hit create, and it goes off and builds you those machines. So it's like going to Dell.com and building machines, except of course they're virtual, and you can browse those pools at any time. You'll see here I have 4 machines in my office worker pool. I could say power all those down, I'm creating a new lab image. Or I could say there's more students in this course. I thought I had 20, now I have 30, so I'm going to up the number of machines that I would like. Please build me 10 more, and it would build you 10 more. And you can see simply by looking at this, I can see capacity. So for example, my office worker machines, there's someone logged in, and I can say, who is that? I drill in, I say, show me all the virtual machines. Well, someone's logged in here to office worker 101. Oh look, that's Ben DeLuca. He's connected to this particular machine. So it enables you to look at it from a virtual computer perspective. The second perspective, though, after you build the machines, is to give those to users. So you do that under mappings, and we've made this very simple again. We tie into Active Directory so that I can either map an individual user to a pool of desktops. If that was a non-persistent desktop, if that was a dynamic desktop, I could say give them access to this student lab, and I say marketing, I hit OK, and it means when he logs in he would see another machine that he could connect to. And I can do that either at a user level, which is what you're seeing here, or I can also do it at an AD group level. So if you're using directory services for your classes or your courses, you can say everyone in Math 401 gets access to the Math 401 pool of desktops. Very easy to do that, and over time as a semester ends you might update that image and say shrink the size of that pool to 0, apply a new image, and then build the pool back up to 40. So very simple for you to do both the provisioning of desktops but also the entitlements of students and workers to that desktop. The other thing that this enables you to do, if you have a help desk staff who answers a phone, there's a whole permissions and roles model on top of this so that you could have a student help desk that says, hello Ben, you're working in your dorm room, oh you have a problem, you can't save something, I see that you're logged into Office Worker 101, let me connect to that machine and fix your problem, and after I'm done maybe I'll log you off or reboot the machine. So it enables you to have help desk staff without the full permissions be able to help students or faculty. Then lastly, of course, there's a dashboard here if you want the high-level overview metrics, what's going on, how many users. You'll see here I have 1 active session, but I have 14 running desktops, and that's because it's the instant-on experience. As soon as the next 13 people hit the button connect, they're brought into the virtual desktop. So we make it very, very simple for you through these two interfaces. One, the desktop portal for the end user, and secondly, the enterprise center for the administrative staff to manage these particular desktops. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.